Excellent. Thanks, Joanne. And Kai, so nice to see you. Thanks for joining. And I hope everyone is enjoying all these panels, very engaging, interesting topics, and people are really sharing their invaluable suggestions, advices on each and every topic. It's really engaging. I'm truly enjoying this. So let's continue. So now we're going to, Kai, we just have 15 minutes to cover this conversation. So I'll jump right into it. So me being I always call myself as an accidental entrepreneur. You have done this quite a bit, so you're the right person to talk to. So what I would suggest is please introduce yourself a little bit. I know everybody's bios are up on the website. And then share your entrepreneurial journey. The most important thing is what inspired you to start your own business, especially to be a great advice for women whom you can actually influence. They can take similar approach to entrepreneurship.
Oh, great. Chaya, thank you. And thank you so much for having me. Just to give you a little bit of overview, as Chaya mentioned, I am an entrepreneur. I actually started my own company at age 28 and then exited that company successfully to a company called Kye, where I worked myself up the ranks there to be COO of a 1.6 billion IT consulting firm. And I am actually right now in transition looking at some other entrepreneurial things. And so I started my own company. I had gotten into IT consulting, IT staffing at a very early age. I heard some of the speakers previously talking about you don't have to have experience in a certain thing, and I certainly didn't. I was actually an English major, thought I wanted to be a teacher, couldn't find a job in the middle of a recession. And so the only thing people were interviewing liberal arts and education majors for was sales. So I actually fell into IT staffing, IT solutions as a salesperson when I was 21 years old and fresh out of college. But I put everything I had into it. I really, loved it. I loved the relationship building. I loved the problem solving. And then I ended up, the company I was working for was sold. And so I had watched a mentor of ours, we both share, Chaya, do multiple companies and build and sell companies. And so I decided when that company sold that I really wanted to go, if I was going to be working this hard for myself, working this hard for other companies, let me work this hard for me. And so I got together with a partner that I'd known previously, Don Harvey, and we started a firm called Vista RMS. And it was very exciting. We had some great growth. We had some great people working for us. And we actually made it to number 2 in Inc. magazine's fastest growing private companies. But, as soon as it goes up, it came back down again. And that's one of the things I want to talk about today too, is some of the challenges of being an entrepreneur.
That's a great segue, Kai. Actually, I was going to get to that point, right? Entrepreneurship, it doesn't come with a smooth road of journey. So, what are some of the specific challenges, if you would like to share with us, that you encountered, especially as a woman entrepreneur, and how did you overcome those challenges?
It's really interesting because I never felt, even though I was very much in a man's world, as everybody knows, IT is very male dominated. When it was my own company, I never really felt the pressure of being a woman in a man's world. I always had benefited from having very strong male mentors because there weren't any women, so a lot of great male mentors. But I never really thought about it until later in my career when I went to work for this public company, and we can talk more about that later. But to me, being an entrepreneur is one of the most rewarding experiences, but it does come with challenges. On the rewarding side, it's so amazing to be able to grow a business and, see people that are working for you grow, to be able to have a huge impact on people's careers and the platform it gives you, to do things like you're doing through your company with SheTek. But it does come with challenges. I mentioned we were #2 in Inc. magazine, but we went up like a rocket. And then, this was back in the day. Like I said, I was 28 when I started this company. Things crashed. We hit 9/11. We hit the dot-com bubble. And as quickly as it went up, it came back down. And we saw customers of ours go bankrupt. We had about $2 million in receivables that we got a penny on the dollar for during that time, and having our houses covering payroll and, all those things that come with your own company, your own business. It was a very challenging time, but I think in those times are where you really see what you're made of. You dig deep within yourself, and you can go shed a few tears, but you've got to come back, because when you're walking out of that office, every eye is on you to see how you're responding to that kind of adversity. And it's funny, I think if you were to talk to some of our employees who were with us during that time, they would probably say they didn't know the company was at that much risk, because, we did put our game face on. We did get back out there, and we really tried to pave a way forward for our people. And we did. I mean, we hit huge obstacles. And for me, I think as a woman, it was very tough on me, because I think women are much more nurturers. And so I had, 200 consultants working for me at clients that all of a sudden these clients went bankrupt and they lost their jobs. And I felt, even though they were consultants and hourly with us, I felt such a responsibility for those people. And, and I'm proud to say I still carry those relationships with me today. And it's been interesting to see them, a lot of them have become CIOs or gone and done great things with the federal government. But I really felt a responsibility to those people. And so, in those tough times, you have to pivot. We ended up pivoting. Like I said, 9/11 had happened. We took everything we had been doing in telecommunications and billing and data and networks, and we went and pivoted and sold one of our billing architectures to GSA that got our foot in the door there. And then we were actually part of the team that went and created that first TSA stand-up where the airports had never connected, and we helped them connect. And so that built our company back up big enough that as I became pregnant with my first daughter, I wasn't sure what I wanted to do, if I was going to keep working. And we had just come out of this very difficult time and rebuilt. So we decided that it was time to put our firm to see what our options were, to see if we wanted to exit. And we did. We successfully exited, which is kind of that American dream of building something and selling it. And then, like I said, I stayed with this next company and helped grow them to where they are today.
Great. I think a couple of things, right? You've actually seen the complete cycle, creating,
Yes.
building it, and exiting it. And that's actually a complete, probably can take the whole day of discussion on how you really prep your company for that. But I think you touched upon your journey, talked about some of the challenges and setbacks you experienced in your business. But one important thing that I truly believe in is this whole ecosystem that you need to build as an entrepreneur, which I feel constantly every day in and out, I'm doing that because all alone we cannot build whatever empire we are trying to build. So what has been your experience in terms of who are your mentors, role models, and how did you really build that ecosystem? What kind of advice you have for young entrepreneurs out there to really create that kind of ecosystem that supports them in their business?
I mean, I think it's critical. It is critical to have that ecosystem. Again, for me, a lot of my mentors were men. There just weren't very many women doing what I was doing. And, I mentioned I had a mentor that, too. And he, even today, I worked for him from when I was 23 to 28 years old. but I really watched and like absorbed everything I could from him. And here I sit, many years later, and he's still a mentor of mine. I can still pick up the phone and call him and, say, I'm looking at this, or I'm thinking about this. How would you suggest I approach it? And been very fortunate in that. I also had a wonderful mentor who was my business partner, Don Harvey, and very thankful to have him, because when I did move over to more the corporate side, when the public company bought us, it was very helpful to have Don there by me. He was going to leave the firm. I ended up asking him to stay. But he really helped champion me in this new world where there weren't any women at the top. And so, really became a champion for me. And I also met a gentleman, Bill Sanders there, who was a huge mentor of mine, because it was a big change for me going from private company to public company. And Bill had been a Deloitte partner, a CFO at a very large financial institution, and really, helped me navigate those early waters of, making that transition. So I do think, having some of those mentors, but I also think building those relationships with your people. I mean, for me, whether they were consultants, because again, we were putting consultants, IT consultants out at customers, whether it was these brilliant technical consultants or whether it was my group that was working with me, to me, having that network and following those relationships, I think one of the critical success factors for me has been, and I think this is a woman thing. Women are very good at nurturing relationships. Women are very relationship oriented. And I think the relationships that I've built since such a young age, in my 20s to today, have really catapulted me, even in this time of transition. I just recently exited Kforce, and people that I may not have ever worked with, but I've had relationships with, or people who know me from 20, 30 years ago are talking to me and helping me with that next step in my career. And so I think women are naturally more gifted at it, and really pouring into those relationships. Both people, you have to have a couple pouring into you, but you pouring into other people, to me, is where the biggest gifts reside and helps you as you're building that ecosystem. And today it's a little easier too than it used to be with LinkedIn and social media, to kind of keep abreast of what people are doing and give them encouragement along the way. So, I think it's really important to, as you're meeting special people throughout your career, build that connection, keep that connection. And, I've always been a huge believer in treat people, the way they want to be treated. And then that all comes back to you.
Yeah, very true. And you demonstrated that, Kye, and knowing you, how you always, what you said is true, pouring out, what you have, your knowledge, experience, the connections you have, sharing them with other people, it comes back to you. And
Yes.
you've been a true example for that. And thank you for that advice. And the other thing is, as an entrepreneur, there's so much you have to do. There's tremendous amount of work that you need to do. You have to deal with your personal life and your professional life, and even deal with external things. And often people ask me the question of how do you balance, work life? So I'm going to ask you the same question. As an entrepreneur, how do you really balance your work life and personal life?
Well, I'm a big believer in surrounding yourself with good people, both in the office, but in your personal life too. I've been blessed beyond measure with my husband. I mean, he's my rock. He's an equal partner. He understands my business because he came out of technology. And, I've been very fortunate to have that unwavering support from him. But, I think I've mentored a lot of young mothers, because I do believe going through that transition of having children and trying to find out that balance with your kids and with home and everything, one of the things I really encourage women to do is let people help you. It's funny, I'll talk to a young woman who'll say, my husband's just not doing it the way I would. He's not diapering the baby the way I do. He's not, burping her the way I would. And I'm like, just be glad that he is, let people help you. Even if it's not the way you would do it, just be grateful that you have people who are coming alongside you and helping you in those endeavors. And I think, allowing, it's okay to ask for help. I do think women especially have got to lean on each other and have, I tell a lot of young women, you will never ever see a man apologize for leaving at 4:00 to go coach a t-ball game. But you will see women apologizing because they have to take their kid to go to the pediatrician. And so, really getting out of that, pressure we put on ourselves.
Yeah, the guilt.
The guilt. And I do think you do struggle with guilt throughout,
I still struggle with that.
I do too. I think it's something that never goes away, but allowing yourself to have the freedom to give yourself permission to have others around you encouraging you to do the same. And then as the boss, as the entrepreneur, setting that example for other women, I think speaks louder than anything you could say.
Yeah, that's very true. And I know Joanne is up there. I just want one last question. I would like to ask you, what advice would you give to young women who are considering entrepreneurship as their career path, especially considering the opportunities out there for young entrepreneurs?
I would say go for it. I do think that it is one of the most fulfilling things you can do in life. Go for it. But really build that ecosystem, build that community, people you can trust, someone who's going to pour into you. You need a couple of those people. And then building that environment. One big thing I talk about all the time is, what do you want to be known for? So really thinking about, what do I want my company to be known for? What do I as a leader want to be known for? And writing that down and living that out every day for people to see. But I think it's a journey worth taking. There's a lot of risk to it, but believe in yourself, and there's nothing more rewarding.
Excellent point. Excellent point. I wish we have more time. This topic can go on for hours, and this is also, very near and dear to many people who are our listeners today. But thanks, Kye, for your time.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you. And we don't have time for Q&A, but anybody has any questions, you know how to reach me or Joanne. Happy to pass them on to Kye, and we'll respond to them. Thanks once again. Thanks, Kye.
Thank you, Chaya. Bye-bye.